didn't expect this kind of turnout. You regret this right now? Not really doing this for me though. Well, so first of all, the reason for doing this was because I have other free agents and players to work for, and I wanted to be able to conduct business while I was here, so I didn't want to have to do it piecemeal and be chased around the lobby to make it easier for all of you. And I know that this is an unusual situation, and I was restricted literally from talking about it until we knew what was going to happen with Roki. By the way, that's why I'm here. And you know, the rules prohibit us from talking about player others or just like but now that he's officially been posted, I can talk a little bit about it. But I just want you to know that, especially in this case, because of his situation and the 45-day posting window, I'm going to be somewhat tight-lipped about his situation. I know you all have a job to do, and both domestically and in Japan, there's been a lot of attention on this young man for quite some time, going back to last off-season. So I'll do the best I can to answer your questions now here today, but just want to let you know going forward, I might be more difficult than usual, trying to keep everyone updated, and there's not going to be any more getting together for all of us. And as you all know, he's officially been posted. He's officially been posted. All teams are eligible to negotiate with us, meet with us, technically and sign immediately. We don't anticipate that happening. So I would prefer to just answer whatever questions you have. I think I know what some of them are. So want to go ahead and fire some out. You want to start?
Sure. What is important to Roki?
That's a good question. She asked what is important to Roki in making this decision. So my first answer is I'm not entirely sure yet, because I've known Roki for a little over 2 years now. And as I've gotten to know him, it's been a little bit difficult to really ascertain what his decision-making process would be for choosing a team, because his focus has predominantly been on whether or not he's going to be able to post. And that has been such an incredible challenge and really uncharted territory for me, because I've never dealt with a player trying to post under these circumstances. So I really didn't know that it was going to happen until a few days ago. That was actually going to happen. So the best I can say is he has paid attention to how teams have done as far as overall success, both this year and in years past. He does watch a lot of Major League Baseball. He's paid attention to what his WBC teammates have done. He's talked to a lot of players, foreign players that have been on his team, Chibalote. He asked a lot of questions about weather, about comfortability, about pitching development, and just watching what other Japanese players in the major leagues are doing and how they are doing. So as far as the process going forward now, I wanted to make sure that we left it a little open-ended. Having been through this before with other players, I didn't want to have some type of hard cookie-cutter system. cookie cutter meaning some predetermined system. So as of right now, our plan is I will go back tomorrow sometime, hope to meet with Roki in person over the next couple of days, and map out a schedule to meet with teams, hopefully beginning next week. I don't know the number of teams, and I know that Roki plans to go back to Japan for the holidays sometime before Christmas and possibly stay in Japan for 1 to 2 weeks. And then when he returns, prior to his returning, we would discuss whether or not he would at that point travel to see some cities or return to have more in-person meetings. We're going to leave it open-ended depending on how the first round of meetings go, how many meetings he actually has, how many total meetings he plans to have, and also teams have already begun sending presentations both in video and PowerPoint, PDF form, that sort of thing. But we didn't give teams a hard deadline to submit that information because we want them to be able to, put the time in to do it right. Obviously, some teams were already working on these things, some of them for months, I believe. So
obviously, this could look.
Flight they would sign the next window. What sort of what entails that's typically encouraged, and how much is that going to impact? Obviously, certain teams have certain things allotted for each period.
So there was a lot of discussion in the media, in the league, in NPB about Roki's situation. There were some accusations, allegations, all of them false, made about predetermined deals, things like that. However, MLB rightly wanted to make sure that this was going to be a fair and level playing field for everyone. So they did their due diligence and interviewed numerous parties ahead of time to make sure that that was the case. And they wanted to make sure that Roki would most likely, while he would have the opportunity to sign in 24, give himself the best opportunity to get the best deal for him and for Chiba, and then Chiba would also have that opportunity. So it made sense to post it this time so that he could go into the 25 pool when the teams have much more substantial international bonuses. It's the best way I can answer it.
How much do you?
Oh, thanks.
You mentioned Roki's former teammates with the WBC. How important is comfortability for Roki in that decision?
I don't know yet, to be honest. Roki's had a tough go of it the last couple of years. The media in Japan, not the Japanese media based here, I want to clarify that, but the media in Japan has been very tough on him. And he's not had a great time with it. And I think it's, my personal opinion, I think it's been a bit unfair. And it's affected him mentally a little bit. But he's a great kid, and comes from a great family, and his mother and his brother, and his dream is to come here to the major leagues. And I think that he hasn't really wrapped his head around the individual teams and the individual cities, and he just really doesn't know much about them. Most of the Japanese players don't, because they don't get the opportunity to come here. He was here for a very small amount of time because he was fortunate enough to play in the WBC, but that was a very small glimpse of it. So it's really hard to say until I sit down with him and talk about it.
John, what was the timeline?
This year he had some shoulder inflammation, shoulder soreness. The year before that he had an oblique injury, but nothing serious.
And as you explained to him the U.S. situation and the rules, and went over if he waited till age 25, how did he say why he wanted to do this and take a lot less money and different things?
No, that's a good question. The question was, why would he want to come now when he could be getting a massive contract? I've been asked that question about 1,000 times.
By us or by Tate?
When you could think of it. It's a difficult question to answer. Some of it is Japanese culture, some of it is just Roki Sasaki. There are no absolutes in baseball, and through Roki's eyes, there are no absolutes in life. And through Roki Sasaki's eyes, and if you look at some of the things that have happened in his life, some of the tragedies that have happened in his life, he does not take anything for granted. It is not an absolute lock, as some people in baseball have assumed that 2 years from now he's going to get a Yamamoto contract. Baseball just doesn't work that way. You know, if you look at the epidemic of injuries there, they have the same potential issues. He could have Tommy John surgery. He's had 2 shoulder injuries. He's had oblique injuries. Things may not go the way they want. The other thing is, it's always been his dream to come to the major leagues since he was in high school. He's grown up idolizing players like Yu Darvish and Tanaka and Matsuzaka. You know, this is something he's always wanted to do. And when he went to WBC and he was around some of these, you know, major league players, it really rubbed off on him that he became sure that this is what I want to do as soon as possible. And it just further solidified his decision-making process. And Chibalote, while it was an incredibly difficult decision for them and for their fans, not that the fans made the decision, but an incredibly difficult decision to break to their fans, they were gracious enough to grant his wish.
Joel, considering his admiration for you, Darvish, relationship potentially with you, how would a team like, say, the San Diego Padres fit as a suitor?
I would assume that that would be a team that he would seriously consider, but you know, his relationship with Darvish is private between the two of them, and how much that will weigh on his decision making, we'll have to find out.
How open would he be to be playing in some form with WBC to maybe better with Darvish or Yamamoto?
That's a good question. You know, just a few years ago when I was representing Senga, one of the questions we heard from many teams, and then I heard again with Yamamoto, was it an obstacle to signing the player by having other Japanese players on the team, or was it an attraction? And it's different for every single player. Each player is unique in how they feel about it, and I think it also matters on the player that is already on the team. How much do they reach out to other Japanese players? How are they perceived by this particular Japanese player? And it just varies player to player.
With Roki and his age, do you think it's more beneficial for, you know, the attraction part of it? Is he leaning that way?
I think it could be. It could be to have an older player to help him, you know, show him the ropes, but anyone that knows Roki Sasaki, this is one of the most driven, intense players I've ever known and been around, incredibly hardworking, and I wouldn't say that he would necessarily need it to succeed. I think he'll be just fine wherever he goes, whether he has a Japanese senpai or not.
To the best. Japanese players, being on the West Coast is more ideal because it's a little closer to home. You know where he stands on that as far as geography.
He's never brought that up as an issue, and when we supply information to our players, our Japanese players, long before they come over here, one of the things that we provide for them is
direct flights from Japan, and the amount of time it takes for your family to come and visit you. And I think about 5 or 10 years ago, that was something that maybe they weighed a little bit more, but now you can fly direct from Japan to most of the major cities in the U.S. It's not really that much of an issue anymore.
To the best of your knowledge, how many teams scouted him this year in Japan?
I would say probably at least half the league or more.
Because you work with so many Japanese players who are making the credentials to go in that league, and Roki is like 93. Do you have any advice to give him about the process? What do you want to tell him about the process that maybe makes it easier for him?
My advice to Roki is to go in with an open mind. With Yoshinobu last year, that was the first thing I said to him, is all of your preconceived notions, everything you've seen on TV, all of it, try and put it out of your mind and really listen to what the teams are going to present to you and what they have to say. Talk to other players, hear what they have to say and their experiences. Then you put it all into the stew and form your own opinions. I think he really did a good job of that.
But you really have to
Trust your gut, and what I tell all my players is I want this to be your decision at the end of the day. You have a lot of people giving you advice that want your best interest, including myself, but at the end of the day, you know it when you see it. And when you see it, just tell me, and that's the direction.
Joel, other Japanese pitchers have pitched on a 5 or even 6 days rest when they come over here. Where does Roki stand on what he would do?
I would think that any team would ease him into it, but I'm sure he'll say he's ready to do whatever's necessary.
Joel, to get the kind of deal, you talked about him wanting to get him for cheap, but like, do you think teams with smaller bonus pools, it'll be tougher for them? Or are you pretty confident that wherever he wants to go, you guys will be able to figure that part out?
given the
gap in the bonus pool amounts is so negligible, my advice to him is don't make a decision based on that, because the long-term arc of your career is where you're going to earn your money. So it's probably not advisable to make a short-term decision in that regard, to take all of the factors into consideration.
Do you think he would Do you think he would consider small to mid-market teams?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that there's an argument to be made that a smaller mid-market team might be more beneficial for him as a soft landing coming from Japan, given what he's been through. Sorry if I'm not doing this. Given what he's been through and not having an enjoyable experience with media, it might be. It might be. I'm not saying it will be, but I don't know how he's going to view it. It might be beneficial for him to be in a smaller market, but I really don't know how he looks at it yet, because I haven't had a chance to really sit down and discuss it with him in great detail. Hold on.
What are the biggest issues with the media
There's been a lot of negativity in the media directed at him because he has expressed interest at going to play for MLB at such a young age, and that's considered in Japan to be very disrespectful and sort of swimming upstream. And there's been a lot of things, a lot of people jumped on board there, creating some false rumors about him and his family, and it was very detrimental to his mental state.
Joel, a lot of players this year York a little different angle?
Yeah, you can.
Right.
Do you have any sense of how to use that?
He hasn't said anything negative about any particular city, and he actually hasn't said anything overly positive about it. We haven't had any detailed discussions about, particular cities yet. So, but I think he could handle it just based on what I've seen.
Joe, you mentioned the tragedies in his life. You've known him over 2 years, but losing your father, how does he cope with that in his persevere?
He doesn't talk about it much. He's moved on with his life, and he uses baseball to, I think, cope with it, and has had an incredibly or somewhat successful career so far, and he's using this as a stepping stone to the next chapter.
So when you say meeting, is it around the Zooms first and then potentially meeting the cities and that kind of?
No, we expect to be in person.
In person?
Yeah.
Here? In the US?
In the U.S., yeah.
But it's not clear if that's going to be at some central location or with the teams.
At some central location.
Okay.
We would probably
First
have
round.
them come to us and not travel around. That would be exhausting. But
Second round.
initially, maybe in the second round, a few isolated places. But we do have, quite a lengthy window to do this. But the signing would, it'll take place sometime between the 15th and the 24th, I think, is the 22nd, sometime in that time.
Do you anticipate that he will make a decision in that specific window, or might he decide before January 15th and come January 15th it can be wrapped up?
That's possible.
Yeah.
The incentive to sign as early as possible is to get the visa process going so that he would be on time for spring training. So the earlier we make a decision, the better, and nobody would want him to be showing up late to spring training.
So where
Let's do it after.
What about Sega?
I could do that after. Yeah, for sure.
Where is about pitching development? Obviously learning about that before the teams. Are there any things within the kind of bedrocks of him as a pitcher and things that he wants to do, or things that are very important to him?
Again, I don't really know yet. But he hasn't.
Where is he right now? Is he in the United States? And compared to other Japanese teachers, how much information has he been studying? You said you watch a lot of MLB games, but compared to other players, how is it?
So he's en route. I'm going to be meeting with him this week. And he's been studying a lot on his own, and we've been giving him a lot of information that he's requested.
Has he wished for any specific teams or any specific division or requested for?
He's asked for a broad range of information, and also asked for us to suggest information about different teams and regions that we think might be beneficial to him.
Joel, he's probably going to get some interest from some teams that don't have a rich history of signing players from Japan.
Yes.
Do you get a sense that he might have some interest in kind of being a trailblazer in this regard to a team that doesn't have that history?
I have that same question for him, and I'm interested to see how he feels about whether he would want to be first or one of the first in a place that hasn't had a Japanese player in some time.
So is he permitted to talk long-term contracts
No.
at any point?
No, they are only allowed, and it's spelled out in Attachment 46, and very clearly it can only be minor league contract with no promise of any contract extensions or anything of value to anyone even associated with him. It's very clear about that. It's the same as the Latin players coming from the academies that sign these deals.
So when it says, could he sign a long-term year?
I suppose after some reasonable amount of time, he could sign an extension, but if they can't even promise to put him on the major league roster during these discussions. But once he's in the system, he would be, a 0-3 player and then approaching arbitration. If he's really, really good, the leverage would be on our side, so there wouldn't be much incentive for us to sign a long-term extension. But, yeah.
You mentioned small.
Potential benefits of a smaller market. How would you describe Edgewater?